Here's your wrestling news for October 23rd, 2021. And your headlines for today include what's next for Brock Lesnar after his WWE suspension, who Brock Lesnar hung out with in Saudi Arabia before WWE Crown Jewel, Drew McIntyre won big on WWE Smackdown, but is it too late? Details on WWE's return to Saudi Arabia, reason why WWE officials were really thrilled after Crown Jewel pay-per-view, Chris Jericho blasts Eric Bischoff for telling Tony Khan to shut up, WWE fans confused with SmackDown and Raw women's title picture, is Happy Corbin en route to championship glory on SmackDown, why Eva Marie was written off WWE television, The Undertaker's whereabouts during WWE Crown Jewel, Paul Wight teases AEW in-ring return for Saturday Night Dynamite, and more. We are kicking off today with SmackDown, as this week's show saw Brock Lesnar be indefinitely suspended from WWE. After his controversial loss at Crown Jewel, Lesnar vowed to beat Roman Reigns senseless if he saw him, but Reigns didn't believe the Beast would actually show up. Reigns was so confident that he called out the former WWE World Champion and had his challenge answered. What followed was complete destruction of the ringside area as Lesnar destroyed everyone and everything he could get his hands on. After it was announced that Lesnar was suspended, the Beast gave Adam Pearce a series of F5s, earning a huge pop from the crowd. Lesnar's suspension is not a surprise to fans, as we all know that he's not a full-time wrestler, as he's only booked for a few dates in his contract. Before Crown Jewel, it was reported that the Lesnar-Reigns saga wouldn't end this week in Riyadh, and that was made crystal clear on SmackDown. Lesnar is advertised for the 2022 Royal Rumble, which makes a surprising return in the Men's Rumble match more likely, and he could become one of the few men to win the match twice, joining the ranks of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, John Cena, and Edge. Going by the booking on SmackDown, it seems that Reigns and Lesnar's final battle will take place at WrestleMania 38 at AT&T Stadium in what would surely be the main event. If so, this would be the third WrestleMania main event between the two after Manias 31 and 34, and although those matches faced harsh criticism at the time, the change in dynamic since then, with a face Brock and heel Reigns, could be what wins over the potentially 100,000 fans who will fill the arena. After years of being a heel in WWE, it's been interesting to see Brock as a face, and his new attitude isn't just on TV. Before Crown Jewel, Lesnar was spotted hanging out with Happy Corbin and Shelton Benjamin, and seemed very relaxed as he chilled in a restaurant. Although Lesnar and Benjamin go way back, Brock is known for not liking being around other people, but after a long trip from the US to Saudi Arabia, the former world champion was happy to relax with his fellow superstars. More from SmackDown, as coming off Crown Jewel, Drew McIntyre needed a big win last night, and he got just that over Sami Zayn. The former Intercontinental Champion made McIntyre look like $1 million, but the damage to Drew's character had already been done. The question is whether fans can believe that McIntyre can dethrone Universal Champion Roman Reigns, especially after we saw him get pinned by Big E at Crown Jewel. This year, McIntyre came up short against Bobby Lashley on multiple occasions, and though he won his feud against Jinder Mahal, that did little to elevate either the Scotsman or the modern-day Maharaja. A fresh start for McIntyre is exactly what's needed on SmackDown, but even that may not be enough to convince fans. After all, if the Beast Incarnate couldn't get the job done at Crown Jewel, how are fans supposed to think that McIntyre can dethrone arguably the most dominant world champion of the modern era? Crown Jewel 2021 is officially in the history books, but WWE is already working towards their next show in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. PW Insider reports that WWE will be making up for lost time and are expected to have another Saudi show in early 2022. Details are still scarce, but given the past few years, we imagine that this would be the third Super Showdown event and will take place sometime in February. It's too early to tell what kind of card will be at the next Saudi show, but WWE will have their work cut out trying to one-up Crown Jewel 2021, which many consider WWE's best Saudi show to date. It's not just the fans who have been high on Crown Jewel 2021, as that attitude is also shared within the company. That's according to PW Insider, who report that WWE is celebrating Crown Jewel and explained why, saying, "Those who we spoke to within WWE was really thrilled with today's Crown Jewel pay-per-view, as the feeling was it was one of the better major shows they've produced over the last year." The report added that the superstars were very happy, as they had more freedom to travel around Riyadh than before, and also had access to a private theater and bowling alley. Before Crown Jewel, WWE had planned on making their Saudi shows must-see events as opposed to glorified house shows, and judging by the reception from those in WWE and the fans, the company may have just succeeded on their plan. Over to AEW now, as Chris Jericho has had a lot to say about WWE in recent years, and has had a lot to say about those who have a lot to say about Tony Khan's promotion. Recently, Eric Bischoff criticized Khan for his constant bringing up WWE, saying that the AEW president needs to stay quiet and focus on his own product. This resulted in Khan firing back, referencing how frequently Bischoff brought up the WWF in the Monday Night Wars and accused the Hall of Famer of trying to stir up controversy with his comments. On Twitter, Jericho backed his boss up, blasting Bischoff in the process, saying that not only has AEW decreased WWE's market share, but defeated WWE in head-to-head battles. Jericho referenced last week's Smackdown vs. Rampage crossover, where the Blue brand won in viewership and tied in demographics, but Rampage got the win for the 18 to 49 age range who watched the first 30 minutes of their show. Bischoff has promised to drop painful truths about Tony Khan next week on the latest episode of his 83 Weeks podcast, and after this bashing by Y2J, Bischoff may be dropping some harsh truths about the former AEW champion as well. Back to SmackDown, as mere hours before the show, WWE announced that the Raw and SmackDown women's titles would be exchanged between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. This is something we've seen before, as it happened last year with the tag team titles, but it's impossible to believe that an entire creative team couldn't find a better way to end SmackDown than what we saw. Lynch and Flair could have brawled after the exchange, setting up a champion versus champions match at Survivor Series, but that wasn't to be. Instead, Sasha Banks got involved, inserting herself in the SmackDown Women's Championship picture despite losing her last opportunity at Crown Jewel. With a new roster of women joining SmackDown, surely someone other than the boss should get a shot first, as none of this booking makes sense. Happy Corbin was also on SmackDown last night, and his run on the Blue brand is looking better than ever. After losing his King of the Ring crown and becoming destitute, one weekend in Las Vegas turned everything around for the former US champion, who was looking for revenge on the man who took his crown, Shinsuke Nakamura. Thanks to a big distraction from Madcap Moss, as well as chaos involving Rick Boogs, Happy Corbin got his revenge, pinning the Intercontinental Champion in non-title action. This obviously sets up a title match, but despite the title not being defended on pay-per-view since WrestleMania, don't expect this match to happen anywhere but TV. After all, WWE's next big event is Survivor Series, where the Intercontinental Champion will face Raw's United States Champion, meaning this will be a TV feud on SmackDown. It's been 4 years since Corbin last held gold, and after proving himself, and with his newfound luck, the happy superstar is more than ready to be a champion again. Earlier this year, Eva Marie returned to WWE TV, but she hasn't been seen since the September 27th Raw, where she was destroyed by Shayna Baszler. Written off TV by the Queen of Spades, we now know where Eva has been, as the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that she's been working on a new movie. This explains why Eva went undrafted, as she's not expected back anytime soon, and we'll have to wait until the ex-Total Divas star is back in the ring to see which brand she's on. Speaking of missing superstars, The Undertaker didn't appear at Crown Jewel last week despite being in Saudi Arabia to kick off Riyadh season. When the news broke that the Phenom was in Riyadh, many fans expected an appearance, but the former world champion was only there to introduce Pitbull. With that said, the Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that Undertaker was at the venue for Crown Jewel and was there at the personal request of Vince McMahon. The dead man hasn't appeared on WWE TV since his final farewell at last year's Survivor Series, but it's interesting that the WWE CEO still wanted The Undertaker around for their return to Saudi Arabia. And we're ending with AEW Dynamite, which will air tonight instead of its usual Wednesday slot, and may see another match from Paul Wight. The former Big Show's only AEW match to date has been at All Out, where he faced QT Marshall, and in an interview with the Brandon Kravitz podcast, Wight teased that he may be in action tonight. He said, "I might be lacing up my boots this Saturday, it's about that itch. It has been a little bit, so I'm bringing my gear bag with me, so if you come to the event in Orlando, you might see my big ass in the ring." AEW has a lot in store for tonight's show, including Bryan Danielson vs. Dustin Rhodes, Lance Archer vs. Eddie Kingston, and the third match between Cody Rhodes and Malachi Black. And we may also be seeing Paul Wight in action, according to the man himself. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.